Salutations everyone! If you haven't watched my previous video entitled Post NAPD Post GNK Deck Build, be sure to check it out because over there I construct this QUETZAL deck that I'm gonna play today. Just to give a refresher, this is basically using a very minimal breaker suite. I'm only using about 9 cards in my deck to break ice, which includes the E3 feedback implants, which synergizes with QUETZAL, Faust, and David, alongside Passport and Mimic as my specific decoder breakers because the Turing and Swordsman are a thing. So let's get into the game. I'm up against NEH, which is probably not a very good matchup for most Anarchs because NEH can go very fast. My QUETZAL deck needs to set up. I keep my opening hand because I have a wild side in there and I really want to get a turn 1 wild side so that because this deck needs a wild side sooner or later. With Faust as my main breaker, there's no question you need the wild side. And sadly, if you draw your wild side too late, like past turn 4, turn 5, you'll find that it's not worth it to install, which is very bad against Near Hub. Because by the time you install it that late, it doesn't really pay off, and Near Hub will be able to exploit your loss of tempo. So this is why I value the first turn wild side a lot. But as you see here, I don't go for the first turn wild side. Instead, I keep it in my hand because I need the money more. I do not know what breed of NEH I'm up against, but judging by the fact that he left his centrals wide open for turn 1 and is icing up HQ turn 2, it is rather reasonable to expect that he's running Scorched Earth, a flatline version that is ready to mid-seasons me. My suspicions were denied when I accessed the team sponsorship as his third remote. So, since I saw the team sponsorship, I more or less know that this is a fast advanced version, possibly with turtle bags, but I don't want to mess around with that. So that means money is not that important, but I still need the money to install my wild side. So, yes. So on my third click, I run R&D and steal an Astro, which leaves me my last click to install wild side. A small risk I'm taking here. I could get tagged and scorched to lose if one of his face down cards is a breaking news and he has a Scorched Earth in hand. But as I said, I'm ruling out flatline because I've seen team sponsorship as influence. If you're running Scorched Earth, and this is post most wanted list, you do not have influence for Astro Script. So unless you only run 3 Scorches, in which case your deck will be very inconsistent. Now he continues playing horizontally, and that really worries me because I have to keep checking to make sure that he isn't trying to sneak up any agendas. And I check his last remote. Let's see what I find. A breaking news. Very iffy. I thought he's not playing Scorched Earth. Well, turns out that one of the main motivations to play breaking news like that is to destroy my wild side, which is a perfectly good play for if he was intending to do that. Unfortunately for him, I caught him out in his act, and it is pretty apparent that he's agenda flooded, so I want to hit HQ very soon. But I think the biggest problem is that now he has given me that 1 point, which means that I only need 2 more 2-pointers to win the game. So he is in a problematic spot now. I think he should simply escort the breaking news straight because I have no clot in this deck. And I also installed a Faust, so I do not have much money right now, but I can get through whatever remotes he intends to make, which means he cannot score Astros safely. He needs to score them off Sands, which I'm sure he has by now. Instead, nope, he goes for a breaking news himself. That's all fine and dandy, but I disagree with this play because it means that he's not doing much. Getting 1 point is rather pointless, especially if you're just playing pure fast advance. I just suspect that his hand is full of agendas, that's why he needs to get rid of something in his hand. And I'm not very confident about getting to HQ just yet. 2 pieces of ice could be toll booths. I don't want to run into a toll booth right now. So I draw into my David, which is a very good sign. David is awesome against NEH because you're almost certain they run lots of 5+ strength ice nowadays. Wraparound is 5+ strength, Toll Booth, and Archangel. So I definitely want to get that David installed. It's one of my biggest priorities, but I still haven't drawn into economy, which is ridiculous. Now I finally have, but not enough economy. It's only sure gamble. So with my hand full of cards after drawing up with IFAC Worst and Wildside, I decide to go for HQ. he shows me a wraparound. So my priority right here is to trash cards from my hand because I have to discard them at the end of my turn anyway. So I discard a bunch of cards, same old thing, don't really need it. Duplicate files, don't really need it. Passport, I guess I don't need it. I don't want to break toe booth with Passport. Passport is only for Turing, and I don't think he plays Turing. And I need to trash one more. I decided on E3 because NBN Ice generally only has one subroutine. He shows me a second wraparound and I jack out. I'm an idiot. I'm a pure blithering idiot. Even my opponent had to remind me that I was misplaying. What could I have done? I could have used my ID ability. I built this deck myself. I can break barriers. Why did I not do that? So you see right there, assuming his hand was full of agendas, like maybe 4 out of 5 agendas, I would have been in a very good place after the access. Instead, I forgot about my ID ability. This is why QUETZAL is so good against NEH, because a lot of NEHs rely on wraparounds and resistors, and you can just blank them until they double stack HQ like this guy did here. So now I'm going for a legwork because I don't expect a Christian Grid in NEH. NEH decks, especially fast advances, don't rely on Christian Grid because they can res Sand in response to Siphon, and they can generally score from very low credit levels. But this one's an exception. He is running Christian, so that nullifies my legwork. I still do find 15 minutes off the top of it. Not the best agenda, but I'll make do with it. All this while, I have a medium in my hand and I have not been playing it. Why is this the case, you might ask? It's pretty simple. Firstly, I don't have enough money to steal NAPD contracts. More importantly, I feel that the agendas are in his hand, not in R&D. I don't think R&D has too much for me. But things get dangerous when he reveals that one of his earlier installs was a project build, bringing him up to 4 points to tie with me. So this is where I have to hammer R&D. I go for R&D, I see an Archangel, which he cannot fire off, he's too poor. And I'll continue digging, just to accumulate medium tokens. I do not expect many agendas here, because I know they are probably in his hand. What I'm doing here is to make the medium a threat. More importantly, if you realize, this means that he cannot reshuffle 15 minutes into his deck. Right now, he does not want to disturb the top cards of R&D, because if he does, I'm going to see 4 fresh cards on my next run. Here I take a risk to Queen's Gambit the remote, and then I go for an R&D run. I know he top decked the Archangel, so I'm expecting it here. This is why I installed the David. Or rather, I do have an installed David here. So I install a turntable. Now, turntable provides even more incentive for him not to sack the 15 minutes back into R&D. If he does, and I find it again, I'm sure as hell going to swap the 15 minutes with his project build. So he really does not want to take his 15 minutes back. And there's any good reason for him to do so, because all the breaking users are out. So me being at 3 points versus 4 points doesn't matter. So this is one of the nuances that you might be able to pick up if you know your deck very well as the corp. And as the runner, I think I shouldn't have installed turntable because it barely makes a difference. At least not until he scores an Astro script. So all that long rambling going on, there's nothing on R&D. Basically long story short, there's nothing on R&D, so I'm going for HQ instead because I'm fairly certain there are cards in there. I'm going to break one wraparound with Faust, I think. Yep, I break one wraparound with Faust. I break the other with my ID. I actually remember my ID ability this time, and I see the rest of his influence, which is Biotic Labor. Ooh, not exactly what I want to see. The good news is he has no money. He is very poor. I'm not sure why. Maybe it's because he rests the Christian. Maybe it's because he hasn't found his burst economy. In either case, his low economy is really causing him problems because that means that his Biotic Labor and Sand are not activated. As I said, I'm very certain he has agendas in hand. He simply cannot score them because he has been too busy scoring breaking users and builds. So, back to me. This is where Inject and I've Had Worse comes in handy. Most of the time when you found your breakers ready, card draw is dead. But in here, it's so good. My hand has 8 cards, I can run any server I want with Faust, and I don't have to worry about my money. The question is, which server will it be? If it's R&D, I get to see 5 cards. If it's HQ, just 1 card, so it only makes sense to run R&D right here. And logically, I see the pop-up window that's been on the top of my medium digs. Going through the pop-up, I then encounter the Archangel, and I use Faust to break Archangel here. I want to save my David token for an emergency, and anyway I have too many cards in my hand. So, making it through the Archangel, successful run, Virus Purge. He has a Cyberdex on the table. So I only see one card. That was an Archangel, I believe, that I saw. So not much I can do there. I'm going to rerun R&D. Now, here's a very tricky thing. I know that I saw an Archangel as the top card, which means that if I re-access it this turn, he can potentially fire it on me, because now he has enough credits to pay for the Archangel. So, he does force me to encounter Archangel. I'm forced to spend, after using my David counter on the R&D Archangel, I now have to spend 3 cards to get past the accessed Archangel, which is not good. It forced me to trash my I've Had Worse. Very bad. I've Had Worse should be used for drawing, not for Faust food. It's a slightly expensive diesel, but you definitely would rather use I've Had Worse to draw rather than click to draw. So that actually sets me back a bit. The good news is that I have more than enough money to steal NAPDs and the like. The bad news is I'm down on cards. But that is about to change. I drew into my spoon. And I play a diesel. Inject is more or less like diesel because it trashed one program, I think. So here I spoon his R&D. I know the outermost ice is probably an Archangel, the one that he just fired on me. If he reses it, it's going to get spooned. If he doesn't res it, I'm going to pay 1 credit for the pop-up and spoon the inner Archangel. So either way, he's going to lose an Archangel. Question is, does he want to res this one? Another noticeable benefit that you might notice of me trashing, or rather of me firing his Archangel from R&D is that he was forced to pay 3 credits for me to encounter the second Archangel earlier on during my medium dig. This meant that he is now very poor. Right now he only has 3 credits. He cannot score using Baltic Labor or Sense and Grid. So I'm basically slowing him down here. While my Wildside and daily casts are ticking away, giving me so much additional tempo, all he has to his name is a single pack campaign. I am, on all accounts, winning against him. I just need to find 2 more genders to win. And my medium is getting more and more horrific every single turn. And I can afford to run every single turn because his ice is so crappy. I run on R&D, once again forcing him to spend money, 2 credits to install that pop-up window, which he only receives 1 credit back for. Now the good news for him is that I don't run Parasite, so those pop-ups will be here to stay for quite a while. But here's the thing. He's not really taxing me out. I can easily choose to pay for the pop-ups with a single card or a single credit. It's very little tax. Pop-up for Worst Ice 2016. Yeah, Worst Ice both in terms of taxation power and alt art. Well, here I install a medium. Not so much for 2 reasons. Firstly, the psychological scare factor of seeing 2 mediums on the other side of the board. But more importantly, to refuse my David. Now I can send my David to the heap, which is very important because I plan to levy soon and I want the second David to be available in my stack. Now as you see, the double medium is so oppressive that my opponent purges viruses on his turn, and I draw my final cards from my stack with Wildside. So now my plan is to use up all these cards before levying. This includes the Liberator accounts and the knife, which I use on HQ just to distract him. I'm not going to access, I'm just going to destroy the wraparound before I levy. It's so cheap, why not do that? In case he decides to fast track something to hand, I can contest it. So now I have a legwork, which means I can actually really contest something on HQ if he decides to fast track it. Something. I can simply just blow through wraparound, destroy the Chrysium, and then legwork him. The levy is also very important because it's essentially at that point in time it meant that it was draw 3, allows me to fill my hand back up to 5 and now to 7 with Wildside. So this is more than enough Faust fuel for my great medium dig, which I'm going for right now. This will cost me 2 credits and a bunch of cards, which is not the end of the world. I just get rid of the irrelevant cards like Same Old Thing and the third medium. And I still have an inject for next turn, but it doesn't matter. I find a winning Astro Script on top of his deck. Did you not see? Did you not see how powerful my Breaker Suite is? Well, if you didn't, I'm going to replay this entire game in 12 times speed to show you just how little setup I needed. After the initial setup phase of the game, where I needed to install my wild site, chronotype, and files, I needed very little money. Just the first Liberator gave me enough money for most of what I needed to do, and I could still afford the time to keep him honest, check his remotes, and get breaking news off of it. And that sustained me for quite a long time. I didn't see any money. Then I found a daily cast, and that was also enough money to get me through most of the game, because files doesn't require money. I pitched my cards, I used QUETZAL's ability, all free. And then R&D is still open, I can still get agendas. I do play a couple of sure gambles, but that's about it. Sure gamble, very efficient, 4 credits per click. And even though he does get set up, I am still able to pressure him. I'm still able to install my medium, pressure R&D, make sure he cannot score in the remote because I faust, all while maintaining my tempo. And there's very little setup required because I don't need 3 breakers. All I needed was a single faust and my ID ability and a couple of resources to get me going for card draw and money. And then the rest of it was history. Look at my hand, there's so many cards, so much faust food. This faust is really the way to go, and mark my words, you are going to see faust very prevalently. It's going to be everywhere once the NAPD most wanted list hits, because it's the only really efficient breaker left that isn't affected by the list. It breaks most ice, it doesn't cost money, it's cheap to install. What more could you ask for from a breaker? Anox and possibly Crimps with splash files are going to be very popular in the upcoming meta, mark my words. And QUETZAL is very powerful because she can deal with wraparounds in a way no other ID can. Thanks for watching, happy net running, goodbye.